roughly 18 months since COVID-19 first shook the world. Humanity continues to grapple with the twin shock of the pandemic, namely the direct public health impact, as well as the unprecedented decline as large parts of the economy were shuttered to contain the spread of the disease. Closer to home, Malaysia has been in wave after wave of infections, recording over 1.8 million cases and losing over 18,000 lives thus far. The economic price has been dear and devastating. Aside from Malaysia's GDP contracting 5.6% in 2020, it is the vulnerable segment of our society that has been hit the hardest. And this battle is far from over. The economic outlook remains intertwined with that of the virus, and the path of economic recovery hinges on first getting it under control. Recent indicator suggests near-term challenges stemming from elevated infections and persistent public health problems. New challenges are also emerging in the form of more dangerous variants and growing community transmissions. Understandably, many Malaysians are frustrated, be it the breadwinner looking for a job, the business owner unable to fully operate, or the medical frontliner on the verge of burnout. These challenges reflect the difficult path to recovery. A good place to begin our recovery journey is by thanking those on the front lines battling the pandemic and the workers who have kept the economy and essential services going. We should also keep in our thoughts those who have lost their lives to COVID, as well as their loved ones left behind. And now our world has changed dramatically. The pandemic has upended many ways of how we earn a living, shop, learn and play, and even how we interact with our loved ones and others like our employers, customers, suppliers, and stakeholders. Thus, there is a pressing need to meet these challenges and embrace these changes, both immediate and imminent. Ladies and gentlemen, the various approaches to the pandemic, be it the National COVID-19 Immunization Program, the Safe at Work initiative, and the various assistance packages implemented culminates in the National Recovery Plan, or the NRP. Truly, it is a comprehensive approach to restoring consumer confidence while allowing our economy to open safely. At its heart, the NRP will catapult the nation on the path to recovery. Drawing on advice by the World Health Organization and the experience of countries like the United Kingdom, Australia, and New Zealand, the NRP holistically assesses a state's readiness to ease restrictions while recognizing the need for a multifaceted recovery. Progress is tracked through three headlines indicators, namely average number of daily new cases, and these are cases in category 3, 4, and 5, utilization of ICU beds, both of which indicates our system's capacity to respond, as well as the percentage of eligible adult population fully vaccinated. So through these matrices, several states have graduated to different phases of the NRP. Just yesterday, Yang Amat Berhormat Prime Minister announced that Klang Valley will transition to phase 2, effective tomorrow, 10th of September. Testimony to the NRP's dynamic approach while ensuring both lives and livelihoods are preserved, the government has also announced the opening of the retail sector, as well as the relaxation of SOPs for sports, leisure, and recreational activities in phase 1 localities. Easing of restriction for those fully vaccinated, including most recently for those in the creative industry, and prospects of a travel bubble for tourist destinations in Malaysia, such as Langkawi, which will begin on Hari Malaysia. Alhamdulillah, we have seen some great progress thus far. Since its inception, we have dramatically improved testing capabilities and accelerated vaccine rollout. However, I recognize that there is still much left to do, especially in strengthening our healthcare system's capacity and nurturing the recovery of our people and industry. Ladies and gentlemen, in the immediate term, the National Recovery Plan focuses on the effective management of the pandemic by breaking chains of transmission, reducing morbidity and mortality, while maintaining sufficient support for non-COVID-19 needs. To expand testing efforts, the Ministry of Health has recognized RTK antigen and approved several COVID-19 self-test kits, which can be bought in pharmacies nationwide. Moreover, in making the self-test kits accessible to everyone, the Minister or the Ministry of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs, as well as the Ministry of Health, have set the price ceiling for these kits to be below 20 ringgit. Both ministries are looking at further revising down the prices by end of this year. The government is also enhancing contact tracing by expanding the use of technology and mobility data. Potential close contacts will soon be identified and notified for the need to quarantine themselves. Asymptomatic and cases with minor symptoms are now subject to a home surveillance order. Moving forward, the government will progressively update the NRP to prepare Malaysia at the next normal of living with COVID-19 as an endemic disease. Without a doubt, COVID-19 has shown that public healthcare is an important foundation to enable other sectors to operate. As such, we will not compromise on what is required to place our public healthcare on a stronger footing through the NRP and later through Budget 2022. Among the new measures to be implemented include, firstly, we are in the process of establishing a dedicated call center to offer immediate assistance in managing COVID-19 causes. Secondly, whole genome sequencing is being undertaken by the Institute of Medical Research to detect the presence and spread of new variants in Malaysia. Thirdly, studying a much better way of deploying the FIND, Test, Trace, Isolate and Support, or FTTIS, on an end-to-end basis. Fourth, looking at effective ways of managing the long COVID-19, a condition wherein people continue to experience COVID-19 symptoms for longer than usual after initially contracting the virus. And fifth, factoring in booster shots or multi-year vaccination programs into our public healthcare protocols. Beyond the pandemic, the government is studying efforts to strengthen the healthcare system's resiliency and preparedness for future pandemics while meeting the longer-term challenges of an aging population and non-communicable diseases. Policy measures being studied include putting in place an always-on system and partnerships that can rapidly scale during pandemics, strengthening national and local mechanisms to detect infectious disease, to stop transmission at early stage, ensuring health system readiness to handle surges while maintaining essential services, and developing an integrated epidemic prevention agenda. Such reforms will ensure the protection of lives and livelihoods while keeping the economy open for business. Ladies and gentlemen, achieving a target level of population immunity is a key enabler on Malaysia's path to recovery. As of September 7 September, more than 20 million people, or 89% of the country's adult population, has received their first shot, including 16 million, or 70%, who are now fully vaccinated. Inshallah, we are well on our way to have 80% of the adult population fully vaccinated by end of September and 100% by end of October. Thereafter, we will start living with COVID-19 as an endemic disease. So far, we have seen this effort bear fruit in the number of hospitalization and ICU cases, which continue to decline. This is especially true in parts of the country where more than 60% of the adult population have been fully vaccinated. As Selangor, Kuala Lumpur, and Putrajaya move to phase 2 on 10th of September, we will enable the reopening of more economic activities, which will spur the economic recovery of our nation. Ladies and gentlemen, the economic downturn has not affected all Malaysians equally, and those least able to shoulder the burden have been hit hardest. Despite making progress, unemployment continues to disproportionately affect the most vulnerable in our society, especially the lower and daily wage earners in the services sector. The unevenness of the recovery can be further seen through the lens of the sectoral shift of spending into durable and essential goods and away from services, particularly in-person services which involves contact-intensive activities such as tourism and hospitality. As the pandemic struck, footfall to recreational and retail outlets decreased by more than 40% relative to pre-pandemic levels. In contrast, spending on essentials has boomed since the start of the recovery, especially on specific food items. As such, an important component of our recovery agenda in the NRP and Budget 2022 is the economy. In the immediate term, both key policy measures will aid these hardest hit sectors and most affected households through targeted measures while minimizing long-term economic scarring. In maintaining livelihoods, the government has introduced 8 assistance packages in addition to Budget 2021. All in, over 260 billion ringgit has been disbursed as at end of July, benefiting over 20 million rakyat and 2.4 million businesses, with approximately 300 billion ringgit left to be spent this year. This includes a further 10 billion ringgit, which will be disbursed not only in terms of direct aid for B40s and M40s, but also targeted assistance for gig workers, the hardcore poor, the unemployed, as well as increased support for mental health issues. Of course, a key pillar of economic recovery is job creation. It is in that spirit that the National Employment Council, or NEC, continues to increase efforts to promote quality job opportunities, skills enhancements, and trainings. As at end of August, more than 350,000 jobs were created. Complementing this are initiatives like My Step, Pejana Kerjaya 2.0, the Corridor Reskilling and Upskilling, and the Pejana Reskilling and Upskilling programs. Graduating from poverty also entails investing in high-quality human capital. In 2020, children in emerging economies missed the equivalent of 45 days of school, and in fact compounded in 2021. To avoid a lost generation, immediate effort to double down on children most affected by school closures and empty classrooms is being undertaken by the Ministry of Education. One initiative, Tabur Cerdik, has distributed nearly 130,000 laptops as at 7th of September. And this is on track to complete its target of 150,000 devices distributed by end of the month. To supplement this is the Jaringan Prihatin program, where the government subsidizes the cost of purchasing a mobile device or monthly telco bill. Over 3.4 million Malaysians have benefited from this initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, I've spoken at length on the what, our efforts to strengthen the healthcare response to the pandemic, immunize the rakyat, and support people and businesses. Equally important is the how. National Recovery Plan is a dynamic, flexible, and agile roadmap that tackles the pandemic holistically, rather than anchoring on a single metric as the deciding factor for relaxing restrictions. Under the NRP, effective execution is made key and adapted based on current local scenarios. Updates are based on current needs supported by the most recent data, especially those based on science. The NRP is also inclusive, based on a whole-of-nation approach. The National Recovery Council, a coordinating body under the NRP, has representatives comprising the state governments of Sabah and Sarawak, as well as industry experts and NGOs to share their expertise on various aspects of the NRP. All in, the National Recovery Plan provides not just a light at the end of the tunnel, but a data-driven, dynamic, and inclusive way to navigate it. Just as it is critical for us to exit this pandemic safely and systematically, it is equally critical that we build back better. No doubt, the pandemic is changing and challenging our economy and society in unprecedented ways. A post-COVID-19 economy will be one of the dramatic shifts in trade and services, as well as harnessing the power of information and technology. The pandemic has deepened inequality. Work norms we were familiar with have changed forever. Sustainability and climate change have grown more pressing, and the world has seen a rapid adoption of digitalization and automation. In that respect, Budget 2022 is conceptualized as a recovery budget to complement the government's wider and longer-term efforts in terms of reform under the 12th Malaysia Plan. Theme around recovery, resilience, and reform, we have issued a pre-budget statement and 4 public consultation papers, a first in our history. On the latter, inputs are being sought on the following areas: improvement of the government procurement policy on local goods and services and procurement policy for the Bumiputra, improvement of cash assistance programs, review of tax incentive, and drafting of the Fiscal Responsibility Act. In this respect, I look forward to hearing your thoughts and suggestions as we craft what may be the most important budget in the history of our nation. Complementary to Budget 2022 is investment and getting the right kind with the right partners. This is where the National Investment Aspiration, led by the Ministry of International Trade and Industry, comes in the picture, with the goal of streamlining how investment is attracted, as well as integrating policy documents and investment-related initiatives. Of course, a unique driver of the Malaysia growth story is our government-linked investment companies, our GLICs, and our GLCs. The MOF has tasked both GLICs and GLCs to play a catalytic role in jump-starting the process of economic reform and restructuring. Empowering GLICs to fulfill that role is the objective of the recently announced Perkukuh Pelaburan Rakyat Program, or Perkukuh. Perkukuh comprises 20 key initiatives to achieve a clearer mandate for each GLIC, more investment in catalytic and developmental areas, increased private sector participation, and the streamlining of the government's role in business. For instance, Khazanah Nasional will kickstart development of new growth ecosystem through its new 6 billion ringgit Dana Impact, or Dana Impact. Efforts are also underway to jumpstart co-investments with several international institutional investors and other sovereigns. Moreover, there are specific initiatives on future-proofing our GLICs, as well as strengthening the nation's social safeguards and fiscal resilience. Another critical ingredient is the Malaysian Digital Economy Blueprint, or MyDigital, to drive the business sector to compete on the global arena by addressing both digital infrastructure and digital ecosystem. The former includes investments through the National Digital Network, or called Jendela, investments to strengthen connectivity to the International Submarine Cable Network until 2023, a 10-year plan for the implementation of 5G nationwide and in cloud services. Bringing MyDigital a full circle are efforts to strengthen the digital ecosystem, be it in areas of supporting digital adoption to privacy and data protection. Furthermore, in terms of our 5G aspirations, we are also accelerating the development and growth of high-speed, affordable, and reliable 5G connectivity and coverage for the socio-economic benefit of all Malaysians. We will kickstart Phase 1 with 10% 5G coverage in Kuala Lumpur, Putrajaya, and Cyberjaya by end of 2021. Phase 1B will cover approximately 40% coverage in major cities in Selangor, Johor, Penang, Sabah, and Sarawak by end 2022, to be followed by the rest of the country in stages with 100% national coverage targeted by 2024. Combined, these measures will address the near-term efforts to place Malaysia's reopening on a stronger footing while ensuring the nation is well positioned to take full advantage of the mega trends of tomorrow in the mid and longer term. Ladies and gentlemen, before I end, allow me to re-emphasize that the COVID-19 pandemic is a test of not only our ingenuity, but also our humanity. It is this common thread that requires all parties to come together to harness the best traits of our society: solidarity, courage, creativity, and more importantly, empathy and compassion. We do not yet completely know how our economy and way of life will change, but what we can do is to focus our minds and energies on emerging from this crisis as a more resilient nation and Keluarga Malaysia. Therefore, it is my hope that the NRP and Budget 2022 will serve as a template, not just on how we exit the pandemic, but also on how we navigate the more pressing challenges that lie ahead. We will harness data to help us be more agile and responsive, underscored by the spirit of inclusivity, to serve us on our continued path towards better resilience and shared prosperity. So to that end, I call on all parties, government, private sector, civil society organizations, just to name a few, to come together as one Keluarga Malaysia. So let's come together and win together. On that note, allow me to thank and congratulate the Economic Club of Kuala Lumpur and the KSI Strategic Institute for Asia Pacific for organizing today's National Recovery Summit. Thank you.
Thank you to the Coordinating Minister of National Recovery Plan and Minister of Finance Yang Berhormat Senator Tengku Datuk Seri Utama Zafrul bin Tunku Abdul Aziz, who delivered the opening keynote address and who represented the Prime Minister, who unfortunately couldn't make it for our summit this morning. We will now commence to the dialogue session with the Minister, and this dialogue will be moderated by Datuk Seri Muhammad Iqbal Router, Chairman of the Economic Club of Kuala Lumpur. Allow me to hand over the floor to Datuk Seri Muhammad Iqbal Router for the dialogue session.
Thank you very much, Zai. Assalamualaikum and selamat pagi to all our panelists and those participants who are following this Economic Recovery Summit, National Recovery Summit. First,